Okay, hello everyone to our Lunch and Learn session. I'm Marisa Firkins. I'm Director and Founder of Safety Forward. Safety Forward is a health and safety company. We are based in Staffordshire. Our business is primarily working with clients on a retained basis, but also we do project work with larger businesses such as corporates and global businesses. We've got a different format today for our lunch and learn. So normally our lunch and learn is reserved exclusively for our clients. So that's clients of Safety Forward that we work with. But this year I've decided to open it up to the wider audience. So I'm really pleased to say that we also have on this call quite a few health and safety professionals. Now, I'm sure there's quite a few people that actually I could learn from. I'm not the expert on all things AI. What I am is a basic user that's just getting my head around using AI to help save me time and grow my knowledge really. So yeah, I use Copilot. So when I do a demonstration today, I will exclusively be using Copilot. But I have Karl Frankham on the call that I'll introduce shortly, and he'll be able to give a bit of a wider knowledge on other AI possibilities out there. We've got a slightly longer session today, so if you are a client of ours, you'll normally be on this session for half an hour, but we are allowing for 45 minutes because we think there might be a few questions added on. So why did I pick AI as a subject? I'm really passionate about health and safety, and that's why I followed it as a career. But I'm seeing a lot of development in AI that enables me to serve our clients better. And I want to share some of that knowledge with both other health and safety professionals and our clients. We are going to have a space for questions, and that will be the last 15 minutes of this session. If you have any questions that you think of as we go along, please by all means use the Q&A function that's at the top of your Teams bar. As well, you can just pop it in the chat function as well. It's up to you. So I'd like to introduce our special guest. Karl, over to you.
Special guest. Thank you. Thanks ever so much. Thanks for inviting me, Maz. And yeah, great to be a part of this today. So I'm Karl Frankham, founder and CEO of TechCare. TechCare are an IT services and cybersecurity services business. We're focused on servicing small and medium-sized enterprises, predominantly through Staffordshire and the wider Midlands, but we've also got clients across the UK and Europe. More specifically on the AI side of things, I've been really interested in AI and the usage of it and the tooling around it for probably 3 or 4 years now personally. And then within our business over the past kind of 18 months, we've been leveraging our partnership with Microsoft. We're a Microsoft certified partner and using predominantly their AI tools to kind of build solutions for ourselves as what we're classing as customer zero. So starting to use this technology in an operational from an operational standpoint, getting used to the technologies to then start engaging with our clients and wider prospects to provide them with these services. So yeah, that's me. And Maz and the team at Safety Forward have been a client for many years. And they were one of the first clients to start using those services as a customer of ours.
Okay, thanks, Karl, very much. Thanks very much. And as we go across this session, what I've asked Karl to do, because I know he will look at some of the demos that I do, and I will see him smile. And that means when I see him smile, he knows a better way that I could be doing this. So it's really like this is a live fly by the seat of our pants, see what happens. But yeah, thanks very much for joining the session, Carl. Um, First of all, I'd just like to talk about the limitations of AI, and I think it's really important to understand this. So, AI isn't a brain that knows everything. So, when we put something into AI, we have to understand it's not necessarily going to give us the answer we we think it should be sending us. So it's not something that prides itself on truth. And that's why, as a safety professional, I have been a little bit concerned about sort of the new generation of health and safety advisor that are coming into the world, into the careers marketplace, and they would have passed their health and safety qualifications potentially by using AI. So their basic knowledge might not be, say, the knowledge that other health and safety consultants have gained before the birth of AI. So just want to say, that is one concern that I do have. So I think as a consultant, I don't see it as a solution to everything. It's something that I look at and think, okay, how can that save me time? Or how is that adding value to the knowledge that I already have? So yeah, there are limitations, and I'll give you a really good example. I was going off to Prague on a business conference a few weeks ago, and I hadn't flown from Manchester Airport for years. And I asked Copilot what the rules were on liquids, because I know Birmingham Airport, I can just throw it in my bag and I haven't got to worry about anything. And Copilot came back, extracted from the web, that I can only take 100 mils and they have to be in a clear plastic bag altogether and they'll need to be removed. Well, that is in fact incorrect, because when I got to Manchester Airport, it's the same new rules as what applies at Birmingham Airport. So yeah, you have to know that it's not always going to be correct, and you really have to be able to critique it. So I use it, it's an everyday part of my life, but I use it with absolute caution, and particularly around health and safety compliance. And yeah, understanding that what the information is given to me might not be 100% correct. Carl, do you want to chip in?
Yes, so we haven't really rehearsed any of this at all, so I don't know how interactive you want me to be, Maz, but I just, at each point there, you've just mentioned a use case that you'd used. I think it's really relevant. It's a really relevant point to mention that um, in that scenario, the quality of the prompt that you use. So you were specifically talking about Microsoft 365 Copilot there, which is what's known as a large language model. This is a chat-based conversational um, application, ultimately a Microsoft application. And the better the prompt, the better the answer. So I was just thinking about your particular use case there. One element of good prompting is directing Copilot or whatever large language model that you use in ChatGPT, Claude, etc., to distinct sources. So it could have been in that case that it was using multiple sources of web information, its own researched information, and there could be inconsistencies or comparisons between the sources. If you would have given it a prompt that said, um, just check the website for Birmingham Airport if it was there that you flew from, then you might get a more accurate answer. So yeah, I just wanted to jump in at that point. Really, the prompt is really key. So providing a source in the prompt can narrow down the sources that are used and potentially return sharper, more accurate details.
Perfect. Thank you, Carl. So I'm going to share my screen, which will be Copilot, and do a bit of a case study. The level of Copilot I use is Copilot Business. Is that correct, Carl? Could you just talk about the features of Copilot Business?
Um, yeah, so you use Copilot 365 for business. Um, there's a couple of different Microsoft products. You've got Microsoft Copilot, which is the consumer version, which everybody can get by going to, I think it's chat.microsoft365.com or something along those lines. I will put the exact links in the chat afterwards. But there's a kind of basic consumer version, which is free, very much like the free version of ChatGPT. And that's more for domestic use. Then you've got a version that's included if you've already got a Microsoft 365 business license. So if you're an organization running Microsoft 365, you will have potentially Microsoft 365 business premium licenses. And they include an element of Copilot. So it gets a little bit tricky understanding where the demarcation is. But if you've got a Microsoft 365 business license, you will get a version of Microsoft 365 Copilot that you can use. It's just a little bit limited, but it is included with your standard licensing subscription. On top of that, and the version that you're using at Safety Forward is Microsoft 365 Copilot for Business, which is a separate paid for license, additionally to your Microsoft 365 licenses. And this is the one that's really grounded in your business data. So it exists in all of the Microsoft 365 apps, or the majority of them, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and has agentic capabilities. It can go away and do things for you in those apps. It's it's sitting in your Outlook, so it can do activities within there. And most importantly, it's grounded in all of your Microsoft 365 related company data, such as SharePoint, OneDrive, etc. So it's the most feature-rich model, and that's the model that you're using, the paid-for version.
Brilliant. Okay, thanks for that explanation, Carl. Okay, so this case study that I'm using just to show you what I use AI for. So you'll see I have a document uploaded here, and it's a sanitized health and safety audit. It's a very complex audit carried out by one of our consultants, Vicky Sutton. Vicky, do you want to wave your hand? Yeah. Okay, so it's one of our large corporate clients. They're a Japanese company that are based globally, have factories, warehouses, manufacturing plants all over the globe. And we were asked to do a one-off in-depth audit to measure the health and safety compliance at one of their sites based in Shropshire. I did ask Copilot, so I put this document into Copilot and asked it to sanitize it for me, and asked it to remove all the names, addresses, locations, various things that would I obviously need to keep the integrity of the client. It's not for a general share. So I asked Copilot to sanitize it. When I'd done that, actually, it throwed it back with actually very little change. It hadn't removed a lot of the names. It hadn't taken out some of the locations, and there were some other bits and pieces left in, and had been very specific about what should be remaining there and what should be taken out. So this is a good example of sometimes it's it will produce stuff back to you that's not what you asked for, or it's not quite right. So it's having that external critiquing of like, yeah, has it sanitized it? So in the end, actually what we had to do is do it by hand. So I popped the audit into Copilot and asked it to what trends were in that document. And I was particularly interested around any culture features of that business and any where they'd had communication problems, and also things like fire and machinery. If I was a typical health and safety advisor working in the company that this audit's been done for, there'd be an expectation that I would produce a report for the board. Now, a lot of our corporate clients with health and safety advisors working in them would literally only have half an hour a month with their CEO or board. So it's really important to understand that, Safety Forward have produced a 44-page document. A CEO of a business has not got time to read that. Your health and safety guy wants to know the detail. He wants to know whether the evacuation plans are on the wall and stuff. But the CEO wants to know, and will ask, you need to ask yourself, what does this guy need to know? He's spinning a lot of plates. So basically, I used the analyst function for this, and I only found out about the analyst, which you can see here on the left-hand side. I only found out about this from a conversation with Karl yesterday. So I was using the general chat function, which is just here on the top left-hand side. But he's looked at it and said, actually, Maz, use analyst. So that's what I've done for the purposes of this case study. So I've popped it in. I need to know key findings. Just bear with me. And basically what it's picked out is out that 44-page report, it's pulled out the things that I need to know about Vicky's client, where were the issues, what are the common themes. And so I think it's done a really good job of summarising things like, culture, we've got fire safety, we've got some bullet points on that. We've got machinery compliance, and we've got other reoccurring themes. And it's actually chucked out some recommendations there, which for me, this is such a good time-saving tool. So if I did this normally, before AI, I would have probably put out a good 4 hours in my diary to digest, extract, and put it into a one-page summary. But you can see here at the bottom that Copilot is actually, giving me some prompts here. So if I just go down to the bottom, right, so I'm just going to pop in here, create a one-page report for my chief executive officer. Okay. Have you got anything, just while we're waiting for that, Karl, have you got anything to add into this?
Yeah, a couple of things. So whilst it's populating that, previously you were using just the chat capability. So again, I reference ChatGPT quite a lot as a comparative because many people have used or are using ChatGPT. These agents on the left-hand side, these are agents that are pre-built by Microsoft to do specific tasks. So chat can be great for reasoning and deep research. But the analyst agent, specifically for this use case, is purpose built for going deep on technical documents, on lots of different internal or external sources. So it uses a lot more reasoning and it iterates over itself on that reasoning a lot deeper. So that agent is a great use case for a specific type of agent. And I think just to summarize there, we're at the crossroads or the intersection now of phase one of kind of publicly available AI was very much retrieval based, kind of chat based, going off, getting answers to questions. Where we're heading towards now is more of an agentic era of AI, and this is building agents that will go off and do specific tasks, not just to retrieve information, but iterate on it, create documents from it, go and take actions with other connected softwares. It just brings another level of capability to AI. So yeah, that's what you've experienced here. You were traditionally using chat based, and now you've switched to an agent that's got a very pointed and sharp set of capabilities, and you can get more from it as a result of that.
Brilliant. Thanks, Carl. So can you all see that it's just produced a health and safety audit trends? That's just a quick snapshot. Vicky, can you just put your thumbs up if that can be seen? Yeah, yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Okay, so that's a quick summary that it's produced for me, but I can also ask it to prepare things like a leadership pack. I can ask it to prepare me a 60-day plan, which I can provide to my, say if I was a health and safety advisor in a company, a 60-day plan that would have actions. You can turn it into a presentation. So quite often what I do from a report like Vicky's is ask for an 8-slide PowerPoint presentation, which it would produce for me in probably 1 to 2 minutes. Whereas if I did that myself, it would probably take me an hour, maybe 2 hours. So there's lots of things that I can ask Copilot to do that saves me such a ruck of time. And bearing in mind that a lot of our, when we work with directors and CEOs, their time is so limited, they just want to know quickly, yeah, what do I need to concentrate on first, Maz? They don't want all the bump. And this is what I find AI Copilot just so good for. Okay, so also sometimes I use it for asking for a gap analysis. So that's just a snapshot basically of what it's produced. And that's, I'd just take the features of that and give it to and present it to a CEO. So let me just go back to Copilot again. So I could ask it to do a training needs analysis. So provide a training analysis that
You switched on to mute, Maz. I think it's switched on to mute for you, Maz.
can you hear me now? You can, brilliant. See, I told you I wasn't very technical, and I just, the mute, I've just got into a panic there. So yeah, what I've done now is I've asked Copilot, if I go back to Copilot, to produce a training needs analysis. There we go. Okay, so it's just working on that at the moment. So, there is so much capacity, and when you think about what we as health and safety advisors, or when you if you're a director of a business, You can just see what the time saving potential is in here. It's huge. So yeah, we've got a training needs analysis here. It would have produced that for us. But yeah, so just some examples there of things that we can get thrown out from AI. So I'm conscious of time. We could. You were right, Carl. This just flies by, doesn't it? Um, Another sort of, if you've got people in factories that write risk assessments, for example, um, and they kind of, one of the biggest issues with risk assessments is where do I start? Now, you can take a photo of a factory and actually upload that into AI, and you can ask it to identify hazards. So I'm just going to do a quick demo of this, but when I do this type of exercise, I would use Copilot last. I would do a physical walk round and have a look at, okay, I'm going to write a risk assessment. What are the hazards? AI, I am only using as a backup plan, absolutely simply as a backup plan, because I just want to make sure that I've included everything that I should, and AI would give me that. So I'm just going to quickly show you what happens if I chuck in now a photo into the chat function. If I upload an image. And literally, I'm just going to ask it to list some hazards for me. Quite a few of our clients do not have a health and safety person in-house, but they have people responsible for keeping risk assessments up to date. And this is, I think this is a really good tool for those who are not really experienced in health and safety. So maybe they're team leaders, and it would literally, this is the picture, and it would literally, it's a factory type setting, with lots of machines, things like that. So as you can see, it's identifying pedestrian issues, poor housekeeping. There's an overhead crane in the picture, machinery, garden issues. Honestly, the list goes on. This is, if you have people that don't wear a full-time health and safety hat, this is where AI really comes into its own. It's a really useful tool, but what they have to be aware of is that not everything might be listed here. So what I could do next is actually throw into Copilot something like, what control measures should I have? And I have done this on a previous photo, and there were quite a few gaps, so it didn't throw up things like training needs, and there were a few other gaps. So this is where it's a backup. It's not. This is not the whole thing, but it's a really good tool to use. Carl?
Yeah, Maz, just on this particular use case, two things that I've noticed speaking to prospects and using these tools. First of all, the idea of Microsoft 365 Copilot. I think you've explained that really well, that it is still very early in AI and the associated technologies, and it's got some awesome efficiency creation opportunities, but using it as an assistant is the key theme for me personally, and many people that we work with and use it. It still needs human interaction, it still needs human oversight. But if it can do upwards of 50% of the heavy lifting in these data heavy tasks, then it can probably save a lot of time. It's not replacing the human in the process, it's just creating efficiency and supporting that process or activity. So that's the first thing. And secondly, on that case there where you've got that environment and you uploaded the photo for the risk analysis of the photo. Again, it's really early, but you're going to see so many use cases and technologies around this kind of thing happening really quickly now. Just like going back 15 years ago, the rise of social media came about because of a mix of mobile devices and internet connectivity capabilities. You've got this point now where you've got these AI capabilities, but you've also got like nano device capabilities. And one particular case that I discussed with a prospect a couple of weeks ago, they're a fire safety consultancy firm. And as we kind of thought about what might be possible, he used Meta glasses, the video glasses. And because all of these things are you're able to integrate these technologies quite easily. We could see a world where one of his consultants could assess a building and walk around, and he could generate a report based on the point of view of the assessing consultant. And I think that's just really important to know. I mean, it's good already, but you've got a mix of technologies, kind of this boiling pot now of all of these nanotechnologies, AI, um, cheap internet connectivity, and it's just going to get a lot more intuitive.
Brilliant. No, that's such a good case study. And I think for us as a business, we're always looking to try and use our time in the utilize it the best way possible. So, when Vicky comes to me and she'll say, Maz, we need another consultant, our diaries are full. My question to Vicky always is there a process or a system that we can implement that would free up our diaries and be more efficient? And I think, Carl, working with you, that's one of the things that you've taught me is to always think about that first. You know, we are in a world where, we have to do more with less to stay ultra efficient. But I'm conscious of the time and I've got loads of examples for you. But I think if we move on to questions now, and Shaylee, could you just pop into the chat function? We have an example AI policy. So before I hand over for questions, um, your business, if you have people in your business using AI, you need an AI policy. And the reason for that is it's something that needs to be used responsibly. So for us in Safety Forward, we only ever use Copilot in terms of critiquing our client documents, looking at photos, because we know we have the security within Copilot that keeps that stuff within our within our security basically. So yeah, if we are sharing an AI policy, but if your business hasn't got one, and believe me, your staff will be using AI even if you don't know about it, definitely put one in place. Carl, have you got just something to add on to policy?
Yeah, just really quickly on that point. Yeah, is what Maz just mentioned there, we refer to in our world as shadow AI use, and there's a lot of risk here. So exactly that, people will find the quickest way to do things a lot of the time. And if people are using the likes of ChatGPT and it's not the business version, any data that's going into that can be used for future OpenAI stroke ChatGPT training. So I definitely suggest against using ChatGPT, the non-business version, for any private and confidential information. Um, what Maz just said there is with Microsoft 365 Copilot, one of the main advantages of it is that it's grounded in all of your business data, but the boundary of security is a Microsoft 365 tenant. So Tech Care has a tenant. Any organization that runs Microsoft 365 has a tenant, and it's restricted to the boundaries of that tenant. So yeah, policies are important to protect or at least educate around shadow AI usage. But then also one of the main benefits is having doesn't just have to be Microsoft 365. If you're using the Google ecosystem, you can achieve the same thing, but you want those boundaries, those tenancy boundaries.
Brilliant. Thanks, Carl. Okay, so Shaylee, I think we've got some questions. If you have a question as well, please put your hand up.
Yeah, we've got a couple of questions come in. It won't allow me
Okay.
to attach the policy at the moment, so I'll get that sorted and make sure there's a link for everyone.
Okay.
So Ian's asked, does anyone use the AI in Adobe? As not sure Copilot will work with a PDF.
Well,
Anyone?
I haven't. Carl, have you got any experience of this?
No, I haven't actually used it. I have got it because we've got the paid for version. But no, I haven't used it, and I haven't had any issues extracting information from PDFs using the paid for version of Microsoft 365 Copilot. But I'm sure the AI version, the AI tooling that's included in Adobe would do a similar kind of job of extraction, retrieval of information from documents.
Okay, thanks, Carl. Carl, this is a question for you. They've asked, based on what you were saying, does that mean you wouldn't recommend using models like ChatGPT, even if it's the paid version for professional work and the analysis parts that were mentioned?
Okay. So if you ask ChatGPT, even on the paid version, so the individual paid plan, if you ask ChatGPT, will you use my data within the chat? It's going to say no. If you look at the terms and conditions of the privacy policy, it actually says that they can use your data. So I wouldn't be putting any company information into ChatGPT, even the paid version, when it's the paid individual version. That said, if you're used to ChatGPT and you want to use that, the paid business version doesn't use your data. That's the main difference. It doesn't use your business data, or it can't use your business data for training purposes. So yeah, there are a couple of plans: free, paid individual, and then a business or team. The business or team one does have more safeguarding around how your data is used for training. Then you're really starting to get into the realms of like data strategy and security strategy. It's all really important stuff, especially given the sensitivity of the data that a lot of you will be dealing with. Is what I mean by that is, even if you've got a chat GPT plan that's a business plan, if you start adding team members, it can become quite hard to manage what they call the connectors. So you need some governance around that. And there's not much tooling on the chat GPT side to do that. So it depends on your appetite for risk, the size of organization, your current data strategy, whether you've got any IT and how they're involved. So many variables, but yeah, just governance in general is a big topic before you even start really delving into the capabilities of AI.
Okay, so somebody's just followed on from that, saying, carrying on from what you've said about policy and Microsoft boundaries, does this mean that any business 365 Copilot use is confidential? And also, do you let clients know that you're using AI as part of your work activities?
Yeah, so again, it really depends on the use case. I've got a separate business that builds software that has AI natively built in. So we are, in our terms and conditions, stating to particular clients where there's AI involved that it does get used and how it gets used and what the risks are. For an internal use for Microsoft 365 in our business, or if you were using that, it doesn't you're always going to be, or for the most part, you're always going to have that human oversight. So, in terms of us letting our clients know that we use AI internally, it's not really relevant in our use case because anything we do with it is always going to be overseen by a human. There's always going to be those guardrails. I suppose it depends on use case, but in answer to the other part of the question, if you're using Microsoft 365 business copilot, the controls are available to massively protect and add guardrails around the environment to safeguard that data. That said, the controls have to be configured, and this is what we come across quite often. Just one point on this that I think is really important. If you just chuck Microsoft 365 Copilot Business into your business and you've got, multiple employees across different layers in the organization, that can be really dangerous. You can start to provide access to documents that maybe people don't have the permission or need to see, that that they can get access to accidentally because of the way that Copilot can go and trawl your data. So it becomes a much bigger conversation then of going, there's a quick win in some circumstances. If you're a couple of senior leaders and there's no restrictions or boundaries to permissions, you can chuck the technology in, so to speak. We wouldn't advise that, but you can. But actually, it all then starts to begin with, before you go on this journey, almost workshopping that and going, well, what's our data strategy? Let's review our permissions, and let's make sure we've got the right technical controls in place to do this properly. I'm getting a bit technical there, but let me just give you a very quick real world example of that. If you'd got somebody in the sales team and you gave everybody access to Microsoft 365 Copilot without doing some of the foundational security hardening work or data strategy work, they might ask a question such as, give me the sales figures for last month. And it might go and find the answer to that, but it might also go and find the sales figures and commission documentation for another team member that's in the HR folder. So it can be really problematic if you haven't got a good strategy around this. So yeah, I think I've probably inflated that a bit too much, but to do it properly, there's a lot of work at the front end, more strategically around data, security, kind of role-based access. And that will differ depending on the organisation size and your appetite for risk.
Yeah, thanks, Carl. And I think that's really a good reflection, because that's why you need to be really understanding of how is your IT being supportive. So all these conversations, obviously Safety Forward handles some confidential information. There might be medical records, or a personal risk assessment that may talk about someone's health conditions, and that's why you have to really drill down and work with your IT provider to actually understand what is secure. We provide all our clients with our T's and C's that talks about how their data is kept tight, and our duties to that data. But yeah, that's why you've got to be really careful. You can't throw, certainly as in the line of work we do, we can't just throw things into AI and not understand how that information is held. It's really important, and confidentiality is something that you need to critique if you are a health and safety consultant or advisor, before you start letting your staff loose on it. Okay, are there any other questions?
We've got one that's coming from Dan, going back to the case study. He's asking, is AI intuitive enough to interrogate a report, i.e. an internal health and safety audit, while summarising and advising whether the information is correct or potentially misadvised? How does the reader take confidence that the information is valid?
Okay, so I think Dan, hi Dan, good to have you on the call. Dan's one of our clients. I think what I'm getting from that question is, if I gave some wrong advice in the report, potentially, would AI pick that up? I could actually run it through AI and ask it if my findings are correct. However, I would have to have that level of knowledge anyway to critique it. So, if if someone was looking at report and say if it was a quality person who didn't know much about health and safety, we'd have to be really careful about yeah, just asking it, is this correct? Because potentially, I'm sure Carl will tell me, Copilot could actually tell me I'm wrong when I'm actually right. And I do love a good argument. And I'm a woman, so we're always right. But yeah, Carl, do you want to chip in there?
Yeah, so this is where the source that we talked about, defining the source, can be useful. If you've got, I don't know your world in detail, Maz, obviously, but if you'd got a set of standards that define what good looks like in a certain element of what you do, you could potentially point the source at the set of standards that that define what good what good is or what standards are, and then have it cross-reference against that source.
Right.
So that would, or could, depending on if the source was available for that kind of usage, that could absolutely work in that scenario there that Dan's mentioned. Another thing that I saw quite recently, which I thought was interesting, I saw a client that specializes in HR that had got a ChatGPT business subscription with a custom connector to some kind of HR law source. And it was then master prompted to act as a HR law specialist. So you can imagine the depth and clarity of the data that was coming out of that versus just coming out of standard ChatGPT.
Yeah.
You can get really niched and specific and specialist in creative ways. So it could do that, but again, the prompt is really key, the source is key, the context is key, and the expectations are key.
Brilliant. Thanks, Carl. I don't think we've got time for any more questions, I'm afraid, but we do ask for feedback. What we'd really like to know from the audience that have attended today is, would you like maybe a part 2 and 3? Because this is a subject that me and Carl can just talk about all the time, and I do feel that we have only just skimmed the surface. So if you would like a further webinars on this very subject, and we will happily hold some more in the future. So please do let us know on the feedback if you want some more of this, and we will open it up to everybody as well outside our client base. Shaylee, how does the that's it. Okay, so you'll see in the chat, we've asked for feedback. If you could, yeah, let us know if you'd like. Someone said, yeah, part 2 and 3 would be good. That's you booked up, Carl. Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much all for attending, and thank you for Carl for your input. It's been really useful.
Thanks for inviting me, Maz, and thanks to all of the guests that have attended.
Okay, yeah, thank you to everyone. See you soon.